Hello YouTube Pipers, Double O Pipe here, aka Rick. I have my Savinelli Clark's favorite, sent to me by my friend Roy from Roy Reads Anything. I guess you could say it's like a Bing's favorite, except it's elongated and curved. Smokes good. And in the bowl I have Cult Blood Red Moon, which is some tasty stuff. Matter of fact, this is the first tobacco I smoked when I bought a pipe. I liked it a lot. It smells so good you just want to eat it. And I wanted a beverage. And I enjoy talking to the glass when I have a beverage. Maybe I got it lit this time. Once again, I don't really have anything to talk about. Just wanted to sit back, enjoy a smoke, and maybe have one of you or two or three of you sit around and have a smoke with me. I don't like it when my shirts don't fit the way I want them to. Maybe I need to lift some weights or something. But I think my weightlifting days are way back when. I hope everybody's doing well. They had a good Memorial Day weekend. Sitting in front of my new iPad computer. Yeah, I really like this Blood Red Moon. What's been happening with me? Not much of anything, to be truthful. I need to get my car serviced. It's been over a year now. But the place I have to take it is like an hour and a half away. And I just hate leaving Hunter that long. Do you know why I call him Hunter? Because the name they gave him at the shelter was Gunter. I hated that name. So I tried to give him a name that sounded similar to it, so it wouldn't be too much of a change for him. I'm used to naming my dogs from being puppies. Never got a full-grown dog before. When I was a little boy, and we lived in the haunted house, we had a dog named Brownie. Well, Brownie was a bit of a scamp because the neighbors had chickens, and he would go over there and get him a chicken. So my dad had to tie him up. Tied him up with some slight rope. It wasn't real, it wasn't a big diameter rope, but it was sturdy enough. Clothesline, I guess, brand new. He tied him up, and that night he gnawed through it, went over to the neighbor's yard and grabbed him a chicken. So Dad decided he was going to have to get a chain. And he got him a chain. And he put that chain on his collar. Figured that'll hold him. Well, somehow he got out of that collar, went over to the neighbor's house, got himself a chicken. It wasn't funny for the neighbor and his chickens. It wasn't funny for the chickens either. I'm sure he terrified them every night. Well, I forget what it was that was going on, but I wasn't there one day, and I came home and Brownie wasn't there anymore. And I said, "Where's Brownie?" And Dad said, "We took him to a farmer. So he's got a lot of area to run around in." Well, farmers have chickens. So being at a later age, I thought, they didn't take Brownie to a farmer. What did they do with Brownie? Come to find out, that's a euphemism for taking him to the pound. Poor Brownie. He was a good dog. And I was just an accepting child. I accepted what my folks said. I didn't question it. I was just happy he had a lot of space to run around in. In England, I had a dog. My dad named him Whiskey. I kind of like that name, Whiskey. I don't know much about him because I was too young to really know much about him. Later, when we moved to another house, I got a collie. I don't remember this collie being a puppy, so we must have gotten it full grown from somewhere, but I know we didn't go to the pound and pick up a dog. It must have just come into the yard or something. Named her Princess. She was a sweet dog. Clyde had two dogs. One was a collie, named her Ginger because she was orange, as a lot of collies are. And he had an old toy collie. I don't know, I'm not sure what they're called today, but it was a toy collie back then. Small, looked like a collie, but it was too small to be a regular collie, so we called it a toy collie. His name was Rex. That was a good dog. Clyde and I would go messing around in the marsh. Rex would just follow along with us. He loved Clyde. But he would go ahead of us, kind of check the trail where we were going. And he found a snake. I don't know what kind of a snake it was, but we could see him over there just shaking his head as hard as he could. When Clyde got over there, he found out he had a snake in his mouth. And Clyde said he broke his back from shaking his head with that snake in his mouth. I always believed Clyde, whatever he said. Rex was a good old dog. Faithful. Like I say, he loved Clyde. Now, Ginger was a good dog too. And she followed my other uncle out onto the golf course late one evening. My other uncle had a 22 revolver. And a holster rig. Now, back in those days, looking on the golf course, you'd step over onto the golf course from the road, and across the thoroughfare, there was a section of woods, and behind the woods, there was marsh, and then there was the Stono River, and across the Stono River was John's Island. Now, this was before it was so much construction over there. So it was kind of, there was nobody there. Well, this uncle of mine liked to practice his fast draw. He was a big Western buff. And when you draw, you pull the gun out of the holster and you cock the hammer back as you're pulling it out, and as you're going forward, your finger grips the trigger and you shoot for a fast draw. At least back then, that's what he did. And he was getting better and better at it, bang, bang. Except for this one time, he pulled it out of the holster, cocked it back, and his finger grabbed the trigger and pulled it before he got it out of the holster completely. So he put a bullet in his leg. I know I shouldn't be laughing, but you got to think, how stupid can you be? That uncle's long gone now. But Ginger was out there with him, and when he collapsed in the rough out there on the golf course, laying there moaning because he had a bullet in his leg, Ginger lay down beside him, right there in contact, I guess keeping him warm in case he went into shock or whatever. And somebody saw him out there because there were houses across the street from the golf course. I guess somebody saw him laying out there and the dog laying beside him like something was wrong. And they called an ambulance, which came and picked him up. This was the same uncle that would go out on the golf course with Clyde, and they both have bows and arrows. And one would get near the tee-off area, and the other would get on the green, and they'd shoot arrows at each other and catch them in mid-flight. They were good at it, though. They never got hit or anything. They always grabbed it out of the air. Don't know that I'd want to try that being at my age, but not sure my eyesight and hand coordination would be as good as theirs was back then. Now, this uncle was pretty good with a bow, and he was back there at the tee-off section, and he shot up towards the green, and his arrow landed in a bird. The bird was pecking at something, and the arrow went straight into his butt and came out his beak. purely being in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's all it was, because he was not aiming for that bird. He didn't even know there was a bird on the green. Poor bird. I feel sorry for it these days, but back then, when we ran up there and I was a kid, I just laughed my ass off. I wasn't exactly a very sympathetic kid when I was little. This was, they call it municipal golf course. Over here on James Island. Clyde used to caddy for the golfers, and he'd earn a little bit of money caddying for them. On each side of the fairways, because up at Maybank and Riverland Drive, it's the four corners of the golf course, because the fairway is cut off. It starts on that side of the road, and the fairway is cut off by Riverland Drive, and you go across the Riverland Drive onto the next section of the golf course. And on this side of Maybank is the golf course heading back in to the golf club. At this corner, it was the 17th green, and on this side was the 18th green. When I was little, I had a curfew. I had to be in before dark. And time got away from me one time. Now on the road, the ditches between the golf course and the road, very wide, very deep. Well, this particular night I knew I was late, and I was just running my little legs off. And I was running across the golf course, and I jumped to get across the ditch. I didn't make it. I landed down in the deepest part of the ditch, and I had to climb out. I had mud up to my ankles, and just mud and dirt and all kinds of grubby stuff all over me, climbing out of that ditch to get out of it, because it was way over my head. I caught it that night for being late and being filthy. Mm. My dad used to fix my shoes, because we had always wore loafers that they were leather tops and leather, whatever you call it, the bottom part of the shoe, the sole, leather soles. Being a bootmaker back in England, he would always fix our shoes. And I think we had some snow. This particular snow is we seldom see snow in this area. But there was a little bit, and I was kicking at it as I was walking home, and I think there was a rock wrapped up in this particular mound of snow, and I kicked it, caught the sole of my shoe, and it bent it back to the heel. Well, he wasn't happy about that, but he fixed it okay. No real stories here, just short memories of living by the golf course, by the marsh, by the Stono River. And crazy things we did as youngsters. Colt, Blood Red Moon, in my gifted pipe, which is Savinelli Clark's favorite. My mixture of the two beers, both warm, because I don't like it out of the fridge. I like it warm. You can taste the flavor better with it being warm. But I appreciate you sitting here listening to me. Appreciate you sharing the time. Appreciate you sharing a pipe. And I think I'll say so long till the next time. I hope everyone is doing well. God bless you all. Bye-bye.